Hello and welcome to our critical thinking course. Today we're covering chapters 7 and 8. Now so far we covered the reason and emotion section, which was all about getting the right kind of headspace for critical thinking. And then we covered claims, problems, and interpretation, which was all about getting the proper structure of ideas so we can evaluate them. Today we're looking at context, which is the process of actually evaluating ideas. And this is the first of two parts, with chapters 9 and 10 giving us the rest of the process. In chapter 7, we talked about 6 categories of context, but category 5 was left vague, and that is on purpose because that category will get its own chapter later. So the point of context is to make sure that we're seeing everything that may be relevant to an idea. Context is important for two main reasons. First, looking at just the idea itself is kind of like looking at a single pixel on your screen. No matter how crucial that one pixel is, without the rest of the image you have no idea what's actually going on. Second, we want to see all of the picture because all of those related bits completely change what the picture ultimately is in its entirety. Take for example the idea that a celebrity is caught on camera yelling out the N-word. Is that good, bad, or a neutral thing? Well, it probably depends. Who is the celebrity? If it's Kendrick Lamar or Snoop Dogg or Dr. Dre or Ice Cube or Samuel L. Jackson, we're unlikely to find too many people who will have a problem with it. But what if it's a white celebrity? Well, it still depends on why they're saying it. Famously, Leonardo DiCaprio uses that word quite a bit for his role in Django Unchained. But he does that specifically because he's playing a racist character. In other words, the context here means that we understand that it's not DiCaprio speaking, but a character who's speaking. And you need an actor to say those lines because the whole point of the film is to set up the tension between the racist slave owner and the good guys. Now, if the video was of DiCaprio screaming at some random person in the street as a personal action and yelling out racial slurs, that changes the situation quite a bit and we're right back in racist territory. Notice that the word itself is like a pixel here. We need to see the rest of the image to know whether it shows something that is good, bad, or neutral, whether it shows a racist moment or not. The same holds for every use of language, whether spoken or written, and sources like news and social media and everything else. When we get to see the whole picture, we can meaningfully understand what that one pixel is doing there. But without the rest of the screen, the one pixel is just not giving us enough information for us to come to any kind of a conclusion. Decontextualization does the opposite of getting context. It actively removes context and leaves us with a very selective and therefore misleading image. As a result, our ability to come to a meaningful conclusion about what's happening drops like a rock. Notice that we are likely to fall for decontextualized information when we are faced with emotional or moral interference, when we want something to be true or false. And also notice that switching over to reason, which is going to have some questions to ask, is the only way out. A point that may seem contradictory is that we are both being very critical in our understanding of the information, but we are also told that we're supposed to read charitably. Charitable reading is about starting with several assumptions. The first one, that the speaker is trying to honestly communicate some idea to us, that they're not trying to lie. 2, that the idea they have is worth listening to. And 3, that small mistakes are not necessarily something that breaks the claim, but are just a glitch, like calling someone by the wrong name. Now, why would we want to make those assumptions? Because if we don't, then we would have no reason to listen to the idea at all. If I'm speaking to Bob and I assume that Bob is just a liar, then I never have to listen to anything he says, because everything that comes out of his mouth is false. If I don't think that his idea is worth listening to, then I also don't have to listen. And if I assume that any minor mistake disqualifies the entire claim, then a missing comma can disqualify anything. So because of my own biases and other assumptions, I can be wrong, and I need to be able to meaningfully engage with Bob's ideas. So how do I do this? Well, I do that by making those 3 assumptions at the start. And that gives me the reason to actually engage with Bob, despite the fact that I have my own biases and assumptions that may be pushing me in a different direction. Now, as we think critically about the ideas presented to us, we will get more information, and then we can certainly come to the conclusion that what looked like a small mistake is actually indicative of a catastrophic problem in the claim, or that Bob is actually lying and trying to trick us, or that his idea is ultimately garbage. But by first assuming the best about the claim, we have to prove that it does not work. Or if we try to prove that it doesn't work and it resists all attempts, then we have a very good reason to believe it. But the part where we actually fully engage only makes sense when we assume that the speaker is giving us information that is actually valuable, so that we should engage. Now, I want to leave you with a couple of questions. If you catch someone lying to you, what does it take for you to trust them again? If you see a source that intentionally decontextualizes information in order to get you and others to support something that you would not support if you had known the whole truth, at what point do you feel that you can actually trust what they say after that? As always, if you have questions, comments, concerns, feel free to leave them in the below, share, like, subscribe, and all the other good stuff. Thank you.